Hi, everybody. Welcome to Mark's Backyard Birds. Well, it's spring, and have you noticed your feeders getting slower? Most people have, and that raises a lot of questions and just change of season. And what today's program is about is kind of the why and how you can help. You need to kind of change your thinking when it comes to spring. Most people want to help birds. They want to do what they can to enrich their lives and help them with their day-to-day lives. And sometimes your bird feeder is the absolute least important of that, of what you can do for birds. So that's what we're going to be talking about. And if you've ever watched my programs, when you talk about the basics of bird attraction, I talk about food, water, and shelter. Well, what's going on right now is we're getting birds that are migrating out, and they're going to go nest somewhere much further to the north. We have birds that are migrating in up from the south. And a lot of this coincides, of course, with the day length is what triggers them to move. Well, the increased day length increases temperatures, increases soil temperatures. And so plants start to grow, insects start to hatch. And when it comes to what birds need in spring and summer, it really has to do with nesting and what they need to help them to raise a successful broods of their young. And I always start with water because water is absolutely critical all times of the year. But in the spring, it's a bit different than the winter approach. Now, in the winter, I always talk about is the most important thing for them to survive winter is a reliable source of unfrozen clean water. They not only do they have to drink for hydration, obviously, but they also need that water source to bathe in, which is, of course, to heal their feathers. Well, this time of year, spring, usually springs are wet and there's more water available to them, especially for moisture. And they start eating insects this time of year. And insects, a lot of times, contain enough moisture in them to help them with the staying hydrated. But water is still really important because, again, they have to heal their feathers. And of course, birds that are migrating, they don't know where their water sources are. They don't know where their food sources are. They've been migrating all night, and the sun comes up, they dive to the ground, they look for a patch of green so they can immediately start looking for insects and other seed sources, berries even that may still be on the vines, but mainly insects in spring migration. And they might be finding insects, but water. Where's water? Well, what you should do is transition your bird baths or your water features from unplug your deicer because you shouldn't need it in most of the country from here on out, but and plug in an agitator, something that makes the water move, the bubblers and misters and those type of devices that it keeps the water going. Water wigglers are another device that does that. And those that sound of moving water, the rippling effect that they can see visually, especially from the sky, that's a magnet for birds for them to come down and use your bird bath. Remember, a good bird bath is a shallow bird bath. We like them with multiple depths of water. So if you have just a plain a bowl bird bath, put in some rocks in there of different sizes so there's different depths of water for those birds to be able to take advantage of. A chickadee needs a different depth than a blue jay, so that's a great way to increase your and keep it fresh. People, oh, well, birds drink out of mud puddles and things like that. Yes, but in bird baths, especially in smaller bird baths, certain species are really bad for pooping in the water, and it's very messy. And you want to clean that out because that's not good for the health of the birds that are drinking in there as well. So keep your bird bath clean. It's not very hard, especially if you do it regularly, and provide that source of water. Because what we're looking for is some people that stop feeding in the spring. They go, oh, it's warm enough now. I don't have to help my birds. They don't need my help. Well, they do. And you're also cheating yourself because the spring is the most beautiful time at your bird feeders. This is a rose-breasted grosbeak male, and you really don't get to see them at most feeder stations except in the spring. When they're first arriving back from their wintering grounds, they find feeders because like I said, they don't know where the food sources are. The insects are usually not as plentiful when they first get here, and they take advantage of bird feeders. And sunflower, safflower are very good for them. Another bird that you would miss by not feeding in the spring are the indigo buntings. They'll be sharing feeders with your goldfinches a lot of times, right? They'll eat sunflower chips. They'll also eat Niger. But remember, the message for what type of seed you feed in the spring is not very different from the winter. What I always recommend is a high nutritional value seed. Remember to learn to read the labels on bags of birdseed. Look for high protein, high fat foods for them. That helps them out. And I'll put a link to my video I did, hopefully right up there, to my video about how to identify quality bird seed. But yes, you're still continuing to your feed your bird seed. Most people take some feeders down once it slows down, but you keep it good quality stuff. But the thing I really want you to consider in the spring, of course, is adding mealworms to your platter for the birds. Mealworms are very good for birds, and there are two different kinds. Yes, there are live mealworms and there are dried mealworms. The live mealworms are certainly better for the birds, very high packed with energy and very good for them to feed their babies. A lot of people only feed the live mealworms in the spring whenever, like, bluebirds have their babies and wrens have their babies and chickadees have their babies, because the male live ones, like I said, they haven't been dehydrated like the dried ones, so they're full nutritional values there. And yes, you have to ration them because they get to be expensive when you're buying live mealworms. You can buy them in larger quantities, but I like to feed them and offer them up whenever my bluebirds are nesting. They list on the side of my house over here in a box, and I always make sure I have live mealworms out during their nesting time, because it really helps those, especially get a cold snap and in spring and their insects, they really aren't moving very well. Those live mealworms help those parents fill in that gap. Now, if you only want to feed dried mealworms, and I understand that's a much more economical way to feed them, just remember, if you feed dried mealworms, especially during the nesting season, you need to have a source of water close by. They have to have hydration, because those dried mealworms are dry and they're dehydrated. You can rehydrate them, and all you're doing when you rehydrate a dried mealworm is you're soaking them in hot water, and they'll plump up. It does not return any of the nutritional value, so it isn't like you're making them better for them in that sense, but they are softer and more palatable. So if you want to do that, all you have to do is put a layer of your dried mealworms in a real shallow dish and pour in hot water on top of them, so that it just barely covers the mealworms, and you'll notice they'll plump up on you. So you can feed both of those. But mealworms are something they really ought to consider. If you've never done that, you really help those nesting birds out there, those adults. And then you also attract birds that you don't normally attract. Like, this is a yellow-rumped warbler, or myrtle warbler, that is in the mealworm feeder. It's got holes on either end, and that's to keep out the big birds, because mealworms are loved by robins and starlings and bigger birds as well, and they will wipe you out. So, and coming up with a system like this mealworm feeder for live mealworms, your yellow rump can see the mealworms crawling around in that clear dish in there, but the plexiglass sides keep the bigger birds from getting in, and the bluebirds and chickadees and wrens, and like in this case, a myrtle warbler, figure out to go in the holes, get the mealworms and fly out with it. It's a great way to save you a little bit of money. But by far, the most important thing you can do for birds, for nesting and insect production, you can't provide enough mealworms to help all the birds in your yard. So native landscaping, and I've talked about this very limited, and I've got a couple of full 1 hour long videos on selecting the native plants. But the important thing is, they've got to be able to collect a lot of insects. It takes a lot of insects to raise one nest of baby chickadees, one nest of baby bluebirds. They require tons of insects, and these guys make trips and trips a day. And so for landscaping, this is from one of my programs that Mary did for me about gardening for birds means gardening for caterpillars. Such important sources of insects for them to feed their young. And like I said, the entire program, I can't get that in here, but plants that are great native plants, many cultivars, many of the the ornamental shrubs and things that they sell are dead zones for insects, because the insects don't lay their eggs on them. The caterpillars don't hatch on them. They don't eat them. And so the birds have nothing to eat from them. So selecting native plants is so critically important. And I definitely want to throw in there the last line there: eliminate the use of pesticides in your yard. I hear this all the time. We had a customer that we talked about. She couldn't get bluebirds to nest in her yard, and she had perfect yard. She gave me pictures and all that. And Ruth said, "Do you have a lawn service?" And she said, "They spray for insects." She said, "Oh yes, they kill, spray for all those grubs and all the bushes and everything." Well, you're killing all the food that bluebird needs. So why would he nest in your yard if he doesn't have food to be? So mosquito control, don't do it. They'll tell you they're only killing mosquitoes. It's not true. There's no such thing as a chemical that will only kill one type of insect. It kills a lot of insects, a lot of caterpillars, a lot of butterflies, things like that. So avoid using insecticides in your yard, and you'll be feeding a lot more birds. What's the number one plant that I know of for feeding lots of birds? That is oak trees. If you've got oaks, you're good for birds. They eat those insects. There's so many different species of caterpillars in one oak tree, and birds take it. It is the buffet line for birds in nesting your yard. So and tons of, we talk about pollinators and all the butterflies. Of course, the hummingbirds are coming in, and they need lots of flowers to nectar on, and native flowers are far better for them. And just a beautiful diversity. We have a whole video, and I'll put a link up there for hummingbird plants you can put in there. This is a beautiful monarch butterfly on a laetris there. So, and then of course, nesting in your yard, again, I can't address that. That's just too big of a topic. I have whole videos on nests and nest identification and nesting, but there are lots of different nests out there, and they're going to be in your shrubs and your trees and on the ground, and really high up in your trees. But providing habitat and nesting spaces. So one of the most important messages here is don't cut down dead limbs. Don't cut down dead trees if you don't have to. If they're in the woods, they're not harming anybody. Those dead trees, for one thing, the insects attack them as soon as they die, and birds are eating the insects, prying them from under the bark. All the woodpeckers are doing that, and the chickadees and nuthatches, Carolina wrens are getting all the insects off of that dying tree, that dead tree. And of course, then it becomes a hotel, because they all different woodpeckers with their old different holes in there, and bluebirds use those holes, chickadees use those, and lots of different birds use those nesting cavities that the woodpeckers have created. So if you don't have to cut down your dead trees, don't do that. Leave them up for as long as you can. I know if they're right beside your driveway and they can fall over and hit your car, yes, I understand that. But if you don't have to, if they're in the woods, if they're in a safe distance away, they'll live for a long time. Some people just trim back the limbs once they start to fall and everything, and that's fine too. But it's something hugely important you can do for birds. And then if you're going to put artificial nest boxes up, this is I've got obviously whole programs on that, and we'll put a link in there about nest boxes. But the most important thing about nest boxes is the size of the entrance hole for the size of birds you're going to attract. Because obviously a screech owl needs a much bigger hole and a bigger box than a chickadee does. So boxes are the right size, but they're different sizes for different species. But making sure the entrance hole is correct, because birds like to be able just barely to squeeze into the box they're nesting in. They feel safer that way. It's harder for bigger birds or predators to get in there. So do your homework on your nest boxes, and don't put out too many. People make that mistake, and the territorial males like bluebirds are not going to let another male within about 100 yards, of his nest box. So there's lots of different information there. You can put two bluebird boxes close together. If you have tree swallows, they'll nest in one and the bluebird will nest in the other, but you're never going to get two bluebirds nesting right there together. So nest boxes, if you manage them and place them properly, they can really help out the birds in your yard. So as we always say, food, water, and shelter, that is the key to everything. And you can help your birds all year long. You can help your birds. Just remember, the bird feeders are just a minor part of helping out birds in your backyard. So consider the native landscaping. Consider a good, reliable water source for sure, and then of course providing the nesting sites and things for them. So it's a great idea for a program. People want to help birds, and these are just some ways to help you out and to help your birds. Thank you for the idea for the program. Give us a like, give us a share. If you haven't sent in ideas, please send some ideas to me, because I want to talk about what you want us to talk about. And until next time, let's talk birds.